How did you integrate technologies, software, hardware, and online into this project? In order to produce the pages of my magazine, I've used a variety of different technologies. My skills progressed as I got more familiar with these products. This starts simply with Blogger. I have updated my blog week by week with my process through PowerPoint slides, videos that I've edited on Final Cut Pro X, and more videos that I've also edited on Final Cut Pro X, but I've embedded onto my blog through YouTube. Also, Prezi presentations. I also embedded my Prezi presentations onto my blog through the link tool that is available on Blogger. I did most of this on my school computer. My school computer is a stationary Mac. This was a useful tool for me as it had all of the software I needed provided by the school. This included Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Photoshop, and Adobe Lightroom. Also, iMovie and Safari, which I used to conduct my research. For the majority of the photographs on my page, I've used my Nikon D7000 camera. This includes the cover image of my cover, contents page photos. I took my double page spread photos on my Apple iPhone X, as I didn't bring my expensive DSLR camera because I was on holiday in Austria. I used these settings in the studio in order to get the best quality photos. My aperture was on f4, my shutter speed was 1/500th, and my ISO was 100. These are the standard studio settings, and I wanted to change the exposure as some of the lighting wasn't perfect in the studio. I did this by lowering the exposure. In time, also the aperture. For my contents page, there are quite a few live photos which I took at Qatar's 2018 Rockaway Beach. I got a backstage pass in order to take these photos, which was really key as it gave some surreal live impact onto my contents page. For these live photos, I used natural lighting. So, my camera was set to auto instead of manual. This is the easiest mode as when it is on auto, it adjusts itself to its environment naturally, so I didn't have to change my ISO, shutter speed or aperture at any time throughout the evening. This camera is the best camera I could use to get the most quality out of my photos. The photos that I took on my DSLR have been transferred onto my Mac by simply using an SD card and importing the best photos. I decided not to use Google Drive as I felt sometimes when you upload photos onto Google Drive they lose some quality, as you do not get this problem when using an SD card. I then airdropped my iPhone photos onto my Mac, as I feel, once again, if I emailed them to myself, I would have lost quality. AirDrop is a much easier and much faster way of getting photos from point A to B. Now, on to designing my pages. Both of them have been decided on Photoshop. That is, the front cover and the contents page. As I've used Photoshop before, it was quite easy for me to edit my photos. For example, I was very familiar with all of the commands on Photoshop, so I felt like the general process was quite quick for me, which was good. Editing the actual photo, I decided not to do on Photoshop because I feel with editing literal photos you are quite limited in that aspect. So I decided to use Adobe Lightroom. Adobe Lightroom is an awesome piece of software because anyone can use it, either you're a beginner or a very experienced. photo editor. If you are a basic photo editor, you can literally put on filters like you would on Instagram and Facebook. Or you can adjust specific things like how much black or how much white you want in your composition. This was very good for me as I used both of these to my advantage. I used a filter and I adjusted how much of that filter I want and how much exposure, contrast, black and white I wanted into my photo. There are many more options that I explored but will not list them as I will be here for a while. Now, onto my evaluations. My evaluations were filmed using my iPhone. The voice that you are hearing right now is being recorded on an iPhone. I transferred this voice note onto my Mac, which I then put into Final Cut Pro X. Editing on Final Cut Pro X is a very brilliant software, and I've used it many times before as I am a photography student alongside a media student. I felt like if I used iMovie, which is a quite basic version of Final Cut Pro X, I wouldn't have as much opportunity in editing as with iMovie. You are quite limited in that aspect. To conclude, I feel that I integrated technologies, software, hardware, and online in this project very well, as it is clearly shown in my final outcomes. They are to the best possible standard. I've used a variety of different software, hardware, and online in this project, which I feel is very key, as if you just use software or if you just use hardware, it will not be as good. Lots of the online features also helped me very much, as I feel like I wouldn't have got the process done quick enough if I hadn't had online processes such as email and AirDrop. This really helped me, and I used this to my advantage.